Good morning. Myself Dr. S. B. Asturi from Sri Kumar Swami Mahavidhyalaya, Avsa, District Latur. Firstly, I take an opportunity to congratulate you, sir, organizing online international conference. On the occasion, I am going to submit my research paper on the topic Electoral Geography, a case study of Sekapur village. Electoral geography is the study of geographical aspects of organization, conduct and result of elections. It is the study of spatial voting patterns or behavior or the study of spatial distribution of political phenomena of voting. In all demographic countries with multi-party political systems, the electoral battle is the first step in the process of coming to power. A sound system of election is the backbone of a democracy. In modern times, election is the only known means of securing representation. To this extent, representation is effective, the government become more truly responsible. So the electoral engineering is therefore of almost significance of the nature and health of country's politics. It consists party of the choice of the right technology. The sociology of election also important for the success of a democratic polity. Voting involves struggle of political parties against each other. In sociological sense, it is a group versus group competition. Political competition is an ecological process deals with the interaction of territory with political process. The branch of political geography deals with the methods, the behavior and the result of elections in the context of geographical space using a geographical techniques. This branch also analyzes the influencing aspects such as physical and socio-economic aspects associated with general elections. Therefore, this research paper deals with election process and influencing factors in the process. Database and methodology for this research paper. This research paper deals with primary data. It is based on experiences performing the election duties as assembly elections of Maharashtra in 2019. Sekapur village in Udgir Tahsil is the study area. Actual data and information is collected, processed, tabulated, analyzed and given suitable cartographic techniques. Objectives of this research paper are to observe and find out male-female ratio of voting, to find out influencing factors in voting process, and to find out infrastructural facilities and lacuna in general elections. Summary and conclusion is based on the analysis of data. Thank you very much.
Greeting to all. I am Uttam Kumar, Associate Professor in Geography, MMH College, Ghaziabad. My topic is Sustainability and Kingdom's Progress Aiming High and Approach of Emerging Bhutan. As we all know, Bhutan is unique in many sense. One very important is that against the entire world, it has adopted gross national happiness as a method, as a tool to measure growth and development. With the outset of 17 Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Convention on Climate Change, the nation of the world were to make economic development incorporating environmental and social well-being. So in this paper, I have tried to find out, to investigate the foremost world paradigm for determining national growth, that is basically gross domestic product, that has given more emphasis on the concept and rather practice of production and consumption, which is diminishing the life sustainability and nurturing capacity of our Mother Earth. In this paper, I have also tried to seek whether the method to measure progress through gross national happiness what is chosen by basically Bhutan could give a better association between theory and practice, particularly in emerging nations where the economic development is so crucial. Further, I also try to assess the possibility for a new vista of growth which can drive our societal development towards more meaningful and sustainable direction. Thank you all, and I also request all of you, please maintain social distancing and stay home, stay safe. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Topic Heritage Walk in North Parur and Kodungalur regions of Kerala, contemporary issues and challenges. Introduction. Heritage tourism is concerned with the representation of the past and the three objectives. First one, classification of heritage spots, challenges and the suggestions and conservation of heritage sites. Methodology. Study area is lowland area and about 30 meters from mean sea level. Heritage sites under the study area having many heritage sites like monuments, places, palaces, etc. Empirical reviews. Findings. First one, classification of heritage spot on the basis of its characteristics. This figure shows the characteristics of heritage sites having most of the share goes for cultural sites, then religious sites, then natural sites, then administrative and commercial areas. Contemporary challenges. Actually, the study area is not much popular because Cochin city is very close to the area and city tour is promoting maximum there. So lack of publicity, transport and infrastructural facilities and lack of tour guides are the major threats. And threat by flood. 2018 and 19 flood was very badly affected in this region. The flood affected heritage spots are follows. Chennamagalam handloom, it's very famous, and Kotai Kovilagam mosque. This map shows the flood affected areas here. Most of the heritage sites under this flood affected area is very famous, but unfortunately flood badly affected. Inadequate transportation is another problem. Study area is having connecting many minor roads. Where there is less connectivity of roads, there tourists can not reach properly. A good number of heritage spots located nearby the major roads are attracted more number of tourists. Kotai Kovilagam is little far from the city, and this area having 4 religious centers. It's very famous, and well-connected ferry routes also there. But in Kotai Kovilagam, ferry service is not functioning properly. Another ferry route is in the entire study area is very active, and this area, the circled areas having very less connectivity of roads, so people cannot reach heritage spots. And conclusion and suggestions: more conservation strategies are needed for the study. High compound walls and strong doors are very essential for the conservation of because water will not get inside. And then develop 3D digital map with LIDAR technology. We can introduce microfilm copies of manuscripts. We can introduce heritage tourism and backwater tourism. If we combine together, it will be very beneficial for the study area. Introduce more tour guides to give better information to the tourist.
Good morning, sir. My name is Mr. S. Anand, Assistant Professor, SM College, Chitradurga, Karnataka. My paper title name, A Brief Analysis Between CAA and NRC. CAA, which means Citizenship Amendment Act, and NRC, which means National Registration Citizenship. CAA, that is provide citizenship to non-Muslim minorities, those who are immigrated from Pakistan, Afghanistan and Bangladesh, like Sikhs, Jains, Christians, Hindus, totally non-Muslim religious sector peoples, those who are immigrated to India before 31st December 2014, they are eligible for the getting Indian citizenship according to this act. NRC, which means National Registration Citizenship, especially the Assam states belong to this act. Those who are illegal immigrated from Bangla and other countries. This is not only Muslims or not only non-Muslims. It is applicable to all. Those who are illegally immigrated to India, they will provide a suitable documents for the proofing of citizenship of India Otherwise, they will be pushed out from the Indian government or Indian country. So this is a brief differences between CAA and NRC. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Myself, Dr. Chandra Rohra from RKD College of Arts, Science and Commerce, Ulhasnagar. I am head business law department. At the outset, I would like to thank Principal of Arts and Commerce College, Pune, who has created this fantastic subject for the research. In that, I would like to thank especially Dr. Satish Kamath, Principal, and Dr. Balaji Survase, Head of Department of Economics, and Dr. Rajanam Patil, Convener and HOD of Geography. Friends, the title of my paper is Study of Vulnerabilities of Marriage Migrations in India. So far, I understand it is the most entirely unstudied subject. There were around 85 million female migrants as compared to 90 million male migrants in 2000. There are so many reasons for which migration happens, like cultural factors, structural factors, demand in the industries, rate of supply, etc. In my paper, I have studied so many subjects. According to the United Nations in the 1958, it says that migration is a form of spatial mobility of population from one geographical area towards another geographical area. There are many articles even have published, but there are many factors which has not been noted, which has not been reported. There are many aspects, positive and even negative, which says about the marriage migrations, like dependence, physical and sexual abuse, adopting husbands, customs and religions, dowry factors, and arrange and other willingness of grooms and wives, traffickings, and so many other factors. Conclusively, there are many factors which need to be studied and reported. Thank you very much.
I am Dr. N.P. Brother, Associate Professor, SS Arts and Commerce College, Bableshwar, Department of Economics. Thank you for your giving an opportunity to present my research paper online during this coronavirus pandemic situation. Sir, my research paper is like this. The lending efficiency of primary agriculture cooperative credit societies, a case study of Vijaypur district in Karnataka state. First, introduction. Since 1951, the various major changes took place in the Indian agriculture sector, such as Green Revolution, mechanization of agriculture, etc. It also raised the demand for more credit facilities in agriculture sector. Primary agricultural cooperative credit society have been playing a holistic role to meet the various credit requirements for the farmers at grassroots level. Hence, my present micro level research study and exclusively focuses on lending efficiency policy and perspective of primary agricultural cooperative credit society in selective taluk of Vijaypur district in Karnataka state. My topic statement problem is like this. Since the initiation of cooperative credit movement in India, more importance is given to the development of primary agricultural cooperative credit society, as they are directly assessed by the farmers and effective approach to free the farmers' grip from the money lenders. These primary cooperatives have been delivering more credit facilities, thereby their share in agricultural credit increased from 3% in 1951 to 31% in 2003 to 2004, but declined to 24.9% in 2010-11. However, it is high as commercial banks share in agricultural credit in the country. My research study gap is like this, sir. The review of literature on Indian agricultural credit delivery system and primary agricultural cooperative credit society reveals the fact that so far Research is done on the aspects of Indian agricultural credit sector, its policies and future, such as economic opportunity of working of cooperative, impact on productivity, income of farmers, problems and policies, but there is no research on lending efficiency, policy and perspective of primary agricultural cooperative credit society in India, either at micro level or at.
Good morning, I am Dr. Daisy Shevitekna. The topic of my research paper is Role of Banking in Sustainable Development. The objectives of my study would pertain to Green Banking Initiative, the problems and the issues faced in green banking. The banking sector plays a very pivotal role in sustainable development of the society. It becomes an intermediary between the people, the society, the business organizations and the environment as a whole. First of all, for the retail customers, what is it that green banking offers? Green mortgages, green credit cards, green deposits. These are some of the initiatives taken for retail customers. They could be given away free electronic transactions, free electronic payment of utility bills. They could also be supported and helped by giving away or rather educating them to avail paperless transactions. For business organizations, those organizations which have an NOC from the local authorities as to being organizations taking care of the environment, ensuring good products, quality products for the customers, and those organizations which are following the rules set up by the law of the land should be given business loans. Loans would be the organizations would be measured on the basis of an audit which is run out in the organization, ensuring that it adheres to the green initiative of the country. Municipal bonds by the government authorities could be one of the ways in which banking could support the government by ensuring to get more funds, more money for its various infrastructural facilities. These were some of the initiatives under green banking. There are many more to mention, but some of the issues that green banking faces is the lack of proper infrastructure, lack of proper trained employees, lack of proper banking officials, and some more. But if we wish to survive and sustain in this era of uncertainties, in this era of survival, we need to adhere to many initiatives which would help the society at large. Thank you.
Good evening everyone. I am Dr. Nandini Milind Deshpande, Principal in charge of Siankar College of Arts and Commerce, Nari, Pune. I have submitted my research paper for the international conference which is going to be on 3rd of May, and the topic of my research paper is Impact of Environmental Policies on Environmental Protection and Economic Growth in the 21st Century. It is rightly said, no intelligent species would destroy their own environment. The prevailing economic condition in which a closed circular flow of production and consumption can be described in terms of natural laws. And so in this scenario, the environmental policies is significant, for it encourages productive and enjoyable harmony between man and his environment, to promote efforts which will prevent or eliminate damages to the environment and biosphere and stimulate the health and welfare of men to enrich the economy of the world. Thank you so much.
My name is Ruchita Rajan Pandri, the Assistant Professor of the Claras College of Commerce, Mumbai. My research topic is the impact of migration on environmental quality in Mumbai. As we all know that in Mumbai, a city where everyone believes that dreams come true. As Mumbai is a commercial, financial and entertainment capital of India, many people are migrating to the Mumbai for the better future. So the main objective to make this research paper on this topic is to study and the concept of the migration, their causes and the impact of the migration on the environmental quality in Mumbai. As per the Economic Survey 2011, the migration level is continuously increasing. The main reason behind the migration
migration is to increase for the job employment, and it is a constitute for the 48%, and this increased migration level leads to the various environmental problem in Mumbai. As we know, in Mumbai the population level is continuously rising, which leads to the population explosion, and we are facing the many environmental problem like poverty ratio is continuously increasing, pollution level is also continuously increasing in Mumbai, and it puts a high pressure on infrastructure and the resources, like we are facing the shortage of sanitation facility, health facility, water facilities, etc. The solid management is a serious challenge currently we are facing in Mumbai. Mumbai is the second largest waste producing city in Mumbai. It is not only impacting on the human life but also the wildlife. The number of the species, the birds are continuously decreasing in Mumbai. So my suggestions are the government should take an initiative to provide the employment opportunity with the appropriate wage rate and the better education and health facility in their respective states so that the migration level will decrease. There must be the ordinance for the availing the eco-friendly vehicle. There should be a certain restriction on the migration. The government should be take a more initiative to divert a young generation to learn advanced and moderate farming. And the most important, the self-consciousness and awareness among the need of the sustainable development so that we can reduce the number of the migration in the Mumbai. Thank you so much.
Hello everybody, I am Dr. Asavari Mokkal from Ram Niranjan Jhunjhunwala College, Mumbai. The title of my paper is Biofertilizers, the Green Way to Sustainable Farming and Agricultural Practices. Agriculture being one of the most promising tool of Indian economy, there is a constant focus to enhance the social, economic and environmental sustainability of this. The promotion of non-chemical fertilizers such as biofertilizers is one of the promising tool of organic farming. Biofertilizers are a mixture of living cells like yeast, mold, bacteria, fungi, elements to form products that are easily biodegradable. They contribute to plant nutrition through nitrogen fixation and phosphorus solubilization. They also enhance degradation of organic matter in soil. Currently used biofertilizers are solid base and have drawback of low shelf life and have difficulty to sustain adverse conditions. To overcome this, liquid biofertilizers are developed which can be easily absorbed by plants. Biofertilizers have proven benefit in increasing the yield by 15 to 30%. Therefore, their demand is expected to rise in the near future. Widespread adoption of biofertilizers will be one of the market trend in the forthcoming decade. My article focuses on the role of biofertilizers in regenerative farming, their classifications, precautions while using organic biofertilizers, the scope of biofertilizer market in India. It also includes the benefit and government policies for farmers to use biofertilizers. Thank you all.
Hello everyone. I am Varun Jashnani. I am visiting faculty at Department of Economics and Business Economics at CHM College. I would like to thank the college for giving me an opportunity to present myself for the conference. The title of my paper is Long-Run Effects of Pollution on Human Capital. Pollution has become a growing concern in India. According to World Air Quality Report released by IQ Air, of the world's top 30 most polluted cities during 2019, 21 are located in India. India ranks 5th on average in the world in the terms of air pollution. The paper aims to understand the effects of pollution on human capital and economic growth in the long run. Recent studies show that pollution has deteriorating effects on human capital, having negative effects on cognition of infants who are born in the polluted areas, which lower their educational attainment in future. High pollution lowers the productivity of labor, thereby reducing output. Pollution seems to be lowering the quality of the most important input of economic growth, that is human capital. The economic theories of endogenous growth model by Robert Lucas and David Romer have proposed that human capital is the most fundamental and most important input for economic growth, and pollution seems to be attacking the quality of this important input, and thereby it will affect Indian growth in the long run. The paper aims to connect the dots between pollution, endogenous growth model, and long run economic growth for India.
Namaste. I'm Dr. Raymond Pednekar, Principal, Arts, Commerce and Science College, Onde, Vikramgarh District, Palghar. I congratulate Dr. R.B. Patil, Dr. Surovse, and Principal Dr. Satish Kamath for organization of an international conference on such a wonderful theme. The co-author of this paper is my brother Sunil Pednekar from Bangkok, Thailand. Our paper is on sustainable development in India. Nature maintains balance. Cyclone is a natural mechanism to maintain balance in air between high and low pressure areas. Similarly, AIDS or COVID-19 are the part of natural mechanism to reduce population and maintain balance of population in the world ecosystem. After independence, rural population migrated to the major cities like Bombay, developed by the Britishers, for jobs. In the due course of time, these cities became international metropolitan cities. This has disturbed the balance of population of distribution in India. In order to restore this balance, return migration from metropolitan cities like Mumbai to their native places or undeveloped part of India is essential. Due to development in technology, internet, no part on this earth is remote. Government can provide basic facilities with a support from industries to these areas. Each individual is different. Each place is different. If we can identify our potentials and the potentials of the region and with positive attitude start any activity, we will surely get success. Remember, success comes to those who dare and act. Such type of daring was shown by Swami Vivekananda about 100 years ago, and he became world famous. His name was Narendra. History repeats. Our beloved and able Prime Minister, Honorable Narendra Modi ji, had shown us the path of good life by taking correct decision of lockdown at correct time. For sustainable development of India, it is our duty to support his decisions and give our contribution for the development of our country. Jai Hind.
Good afternoon to all. I, Dr. Mukesh Kumar, Associate Professor and at Department of Geography, Government College, Bahul, District Jhajjar, Haryana. My research paper title is The Role of Online Education in Geographical Study. In our traditional teaching work, teachers always expect that what they taught would last their students, so they have used many techniques and methods to impart student knowledge. Now, the world is changing very fast. Therefore, in 20th century, because of rapid development in technology, our students are already digitally aware and they don't have sufficient time for classroom teaching learning. They also don't want to learn more things in their mind by traditional methods. They have no such time. Now digitally literacy is more than a skill for the young people and it plays a attractive and pivot role in their lives. Therefore, online education becomes a very effective tool in teaching learning process. In this paper, role of online education will be described to finding as a major tool to be used in study of geography. ICT applicability in the teaching or geography subject. Its benefit to the learners and researchers, cartography and their practical work of geography. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Ravi Jagtap. My subject name is study of e-commerce and its importance. The meaning of e-commerce is buying and selling the goods, product and service over the internet. I have some objective for this study. Number one, the study of e-commerce with its limitation. I have some hypothesis. Number one, use of internet is increasing in the business, and second is that there is a positive growth of the e-commerce. For this paper, we have used the research methodology. There is a second data we have used for this paper. So many sites, so many webs and webinars, and papers or study for these papers. Benefit of this e-commerce is that save the times of consumer, easy target to consumers, is speedy and economical. There is elasticity to buy a product. There is no geographical restriction. With easy to compare the price and the product as well, and review is possible very easily in this connection. And limitation of this e-commerce is that there is a lack of personal touch. There is no personal feel we found. There is a site crash maybe there if we loudly go with that. Thirdly, there is a unsafety or unsure about the superiority, that we won't get the superior product always. There is a maybe hackers who hacked the personal details. There is no safety we found. And conclusion for this topic is that many of the people who live in rural areas, they do not have the knowledge of the internet, and likewise many people also from urban do not have the credit facility or the that much money to spend on the online, because they felt there is a costly. But right now, after demonetization and in the period of lockdown, so many people are taking the interest through the online, and we hope it will increase in further. But our institution or India's government have put a major or good webinar or website for this purpose. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Myself, Dr. K.P. Bhulane. I am working in the Department of Commerce as Assistant Professor, Vinayakrao Patil Mahavidyalaya, Vaizapur, from the state of Maharashtra. Today I am going to present a paper entitled Green Economy in the Context of India. The transition to green and inclusive economies has been long deliberated both at national and global level. India has recently made two major global commitments: the 2030 Global Development Agenda and the ratification of the Paris Agreement. This paper tried to study the benefits, principles and barriers of green economy. Green economy transition in key sectors like agriculture, construction, power, manufacturing, transport and tourism is also identified. Thank you.
Hello everyone, myself Dr. Dilip Barsagade, working as an assistant professor at Phule Ambedkar College of Social Work, Gadchiroli. The title of my research paper is Role of Civil Society Actors and Social Movements for Climate Justice. This paper may be useful to understand the various global civil society actors who have been involved in co-creating sustainable generation. In this era, networking and convergence add meaning to the efforts, as it includes online campaign and petitions, climate activism, interactive maps, etc. I am trying to light in this paper on empirical evidences have been provided with reference to climate related issues and the essential intervention undertaken by various civil society actors. In this paper, I will explore the way of social movements and key civil society actors, organization themselves in setting agenda, making negotiations, and creating emotional response in the public sphere to combat climate change. The civil society actors and social movements work together, mobilizing people for the common agenda. At the individual level, people to contribute to reduce their carbon emissions by leading a low carbon or carbon free lifestyle. Therefore, the need of the hour is to work cohesively without any personal or institutional prejudice to act towards saving the earth from further injustice. Thank you.
Good morning. Myself Dr. Paresh Siddhartha Joshi. Presently I am working as a in-charge principal and associate professor of Department of Agriculture Economics at Rajaram Marathi Krishi Mahavidyalaya Kundaka. Today in this international conference I am going to present my research article titled Study of Economic Sustainability of Tourism Development in Sindhudurga District. This is one of the objective of my PhD research. So today here I am taking this advantage of this conference to present this particular research article. So basically, you know very well about the tourism. Tourism is a complex phenomenon. It is nowadays becoming one of the most important service industry. But nowadays trend is shifted towards the qualitative and quantitative approach, and therefore it is necessary to study the tourism development in sustainable way. So in this research article, the basic objective of this article is to study the economic impact of tourism development in Sindhudurga district. So here I am presently I am selected Sindhudurga district purposely because I am the native of Sindhudurga district, and the 10 different tourist spots I am selected for study of economic impact, both positive and negative. So here in methodology I am using the Likert scale to determine whether there is a positive impact or whether there is a negative impact. So by using the Likert scale, I developed different questionnaires for the local residents. Near about 200 local residents were selected for this particular study. So within a short period of time, it is not possible to explain all these things in this video. So here I am going to directly come to the conclusion point that 12 variables were considered to measure the positive economic impact, as well as there are total 9 with there are total 9 variables studied for the negative impact. So as per the study, one sample t-test were selected to study the agreement and disagreement of this particular study. So in this study, it is found that the particular study area possesses both positive impact, economic impact, as well as the negative economic impact. Both local residents are strongly agree regarding the positive impacts as well as the regarding negative impact. Everything is given in the research article in detail. There are different variables. I am not going to quote the different variables because there is a time limit. So the finding of my study is that in Sindhudurga district there are both positive as well as the negative economic impacts. Thank you.
प्राध्यापक डॉक्टर अप्पाराव नाराव काळगापुरे, भूगोल विभाग प्रमुख श्री राहुल गोस्वामी महाविद्यालय उदगीर. वन डे इंटरनॅशनल या कॉन्फरन्सच्या माध्यमातून मी शोध निबंध जे सादर केलेला आहे ते मराठवाड्यातील जिल्हानिहाय लोकसंख्या वाढीचा भौगोलिक अभ्यास करणे. यासाठी एकूण 20 वर्षाचा कालावधी निश्चित करण्यात आलेला आहे 1991 ते 2011. या 20 वर्षाच्या कालावधीमध्ये लोकसंख्येमध्ये मराठवाड्यात वाढ झालेली दिसून आलेली आहे. महाराष्ट्राच्या एकूण भौगोलिक क्षेत्रफळापैकी 21.06% क्षेत्र मराठवाड्याने व्यापलेलं आहे आणि महाराष्ट्रातील एकूण लोकसंख्येपैकी 16.7% लोकसंख्या ही मराठवाड्यामध्ये विखुरलेली आहे. मराठवाड्यातील लोकसंख्या जिल्हानिहाय लोकसंख्या कशा पद्धतीने विखुरली आहे त्याचा शोध घेण्याचा प्रयत्न या शोध निबंधाच्या माध्यमातून करण्यात आले. त्यासाठी जी उद्दिष्टे निश्चित करण्यात आली ती उद्दिष्टे या पद्धतीने मराठवाड्यातील जिल्हानिहाय लोकसंख्या वाढीचा अभ्यास करणे. ही जी उद्दिष्टे साध्य करण्यासाठी मी सांख्यिकी आणि लोकसंख्या शास्त्रीय पद्धतीचा अवलंब केलेला आहे आणि त्या पद्धतीनुसार जे निष्कर्ष या ठिकाणी स्पष्ट करण्यात आलेले आहेत. निष्कर्षानुसार पाहिलं असता मराठवाड्यातील एकूण जी काही सरासरी लोकसंख्येत वाढ झालेली आहे 20 वर्षाच्या कालावधीमध्ये, यामध्ये औरंगाबादमध्ये 40.10% आणि नांदेडमध्ये 30.57% लोकसंख्येत वाढ झालेली आहे. एकूण सरासरी मराठवाड्यातील लोकसंख्या ही 30.54% इतकी आहे. जेणेकरून या मराठवाड्यातील क्षेत्रापेक्षा या 2 जिल्ह्यामध्ये लोकसंख्येत खूप मोठ्या प्रमाणात वाढ झाली दिसून येते. या जिल्ह्यात लोकसंख्येत वाढ झाल्याचं कारण या जिल्ह्यामध्ये शैक्षणिक, सांस्कृतिक, आर्थिक त्याच पद्धतीने औद्योगिक घटकाचा विकास मोठ्या प्रमाणात झालेला आहे आणि यामुळेच या जिल्ह्यात लोकसंख्येत वाढ झाली दिसून येते. या जिल्ह्याच्या तुलनेत इतर जिल्ह्यामध्ये लोकसंख्येची म्हणावी तेवढी वाढ झालेली नाही. धन्यवाद. या कॉन्फरन्समध्ये मला संधी दिली त्याबद्दल महाविद्यालयाचे प्राचार्य, संयोजक यांचा मी आभार व्यक्त करतो.
Fondagat Education Society's Arts Commerce College Fondagat organized one day online international interdisciplinary conference on role of economy and ecology in sustainable development. I am Pradeep Moite from MNMG College Fondagat District Palghar. My research paper on service sector and its importance. India has classified and tracked economy and GDP in 3 sectors: primary sector, secondary sector, territory sector. Primary sector is also called as agriculture sector. Secondary sector is also called as manufacturing and construction sector. Territory sector is also called as service sector. India is among the world's rapidly growing economy. The service sector has been a major contribution to Indian GDP and its growth. Service sector is the second largest employer after the agriculture sector. It is difficult to think the life in the economy without the service sector. Hence, it is important to know the role and importance of service sector. First importance of service sector is contribution of service sector to the national income. Among all 3 sectors, service sector has maximum contribution to national income in India. In 2018-19, from GDP, service sector share is more than 54%. Third importance of service sector is providing employment. The importance of service sector can also be realized from its contribution to a generation of employment in India. After the agricultural sector, service sector give more employment to the national. Third importance is attracting funds from foreign country. FDI play an important role in economic development of country. The service sector in India receives foreign direct investment. Financial sector, IT, housing, township, telecommunication, these are the 100% investment of FDI. Fourth importance of service sector is contribution of service sector in export. The service sector is also playing an important role in raising the volume of export in the country. Thus, India is moving toward a service-led export growth in recent years. Exporting means selling goods, services to the citizen in the foreign country to earn foreign exchange in the form of dollar, euro, yen, pound, etc. For increasing GDP, employment creation, foreign investment, foreign exchange, Indian government need more focus on service sector. Thank you.
मी डॉक्टर लक्ष्मण म्हस्के, शासकीय विदर्भ ज्ञान विज्ञान संस्था अमरावती. विषय आहे शाश्वत विकास व सार्वजनिक आरोग्य सुविधा महाराष्ट्राच्या विशेष संदर्भात. शाश्वत विकास ही संकल्पना प्रामुख्याने आर्थिक, सामाजिक व पर्यावरणीय घटकांच्या उपलब्ध निर्देशांक व त्याचा पारस्परिक संबंध यावर अवलंबून आहे. अलीकडच्या काळात मानवी हस्तक्षेपामुळे पर्यावरण व आरोग्यविषयक समस्या मोठ्या प्रमाणावर निर्माण झालेल्या दिसून येतात. म्हणून शाश्वत विकासाचे लक्ष्य साध्य करायचे असेल तर सार्वजनिक आरोग्य सेवेची उपलब्धता व त्याचा परिणामकारक वापर करणे अगत्याचे ठरते. भारतात केंद्र व राज्य सरकार मिळून आरोग्य सुविधावर GDPच्या केवळ 1.13% एवढाच खर्च केला जातो. हा अल्पसा आहे. म्हणून देशात आरोग्य सेवेच्या बाबतीत खाजगी क्षेत्राचे वर्चस्व मोठ्या प्रमाणावर असल्याचे दिसून येते. परंतु जेव्हा साथी, विषाणूजन्य आजार उद्भवतात तेव्हा सार्वजनिक आरोग्य सेवेवर त्याचा अतिरिक्त ताण निर्माण होतो. म्हणून सार्वजनिक आरोग्य सुविधेची कमतरता निर्माण होते आणि शाश्वत विकासाच्या दृष्टीने सार्वजनिक आरोग्य सेवेची उपलब्धता व त्याचा परिणामकारक वापर करणे गरजेचे आहे. महाराष्ट्र राज्याचा विचार करता डिसेंबर 2019 पर्यंत महाराष्ट्रात वैद्यकीय परिषद मुंबई यांच्याकडे नोंदणी व नूतनीकरण झालेल्या पदवी आणि पदव्युत्तर डॉक्टरांची, ॲलोपॅथी डॉक्टरांची संख्या ही 1,56,071 एवढी होती. म्हणजेच 1,237 लोकसंख्या मागे केवळ 1 डॉक्टर असल्याचे दिसून येते. तर दर लाख लोकसंख्या मागे सार्वजनिक रुग्णालयांची संख्या ही केवळ 1 असल्याची दिसून येते. तर याच रुग्णालयात उपलब्ध असणाऱ्या खाटांची संख्या ही दर लाख लोकसंख्येमागे केवळ 102 एवढ्या कमी प्रमाणात असल्याची दिसून येते. यावरून हे सिद्ध होते की केंद्र व राज्य सरकारला येत्या काळात सर्वसामान्य जनतेला स्वस्त, मुबलक व उत्तम आरोग्यविषयक सुविधा उपलब्ध करून देणे क्रमप्राप्त ठरते. यासाठी केंद्र व राज्य सरकारने एकत्रितपणे आरोग्य सेवेवर GDPच्या किमान 3% एवढा खर्च करणे अपेक्षित आहे. तरच आपण शाश्वत विकासाकडे खऱ्या अर्थाने वाटचाल करू शकतो.
नमस्कार, मी प्राध्यापक देवीदास गवळी, अर्थशास्त्र विभाग प्रमुख, श्री शिवाजी महाविद्यालय परभणी. मित्रांनो, शाश्वत विकासातील अडथळे आणि पर्यावरणीय अर्थशास्त्र अलीकडील काळामध्ये चर्चिले जाणारा हा महत्त्वाचा विषय मानला जातो. कारण अतिविकासाच्या हव्यासापोटी मानवाने पर्यावरणाचे मोठ्या प्रमाणावर नुकसान केलेले आपल्याला दिसून येते. पर्यावरणीय परिसंस्थांचे नुकसान मोठ्या प्रमाणावर झाल्यामुळे मानवावर त्यांचे विपरीत परिणाम झालेले आपल्याला दिसून येतात. या अनुषंगाने अर्थशास्त्रीय सिद्धांत मांडून त्या अडचणी दूर करता येतील का याचा विचार प्रामुख्याने पर्यावरणीय अर्थशास्त्रामध्ये केला जातो. कारण आर्थिक स्रोत किंवा संपत्ती स्रोत हे किती महत्त्वाचे असतात हे 1987 मध्ये मांडलेल्या ब्रुटलँड अहवालावरून स्पष्ट करता येते. सर्वसाधारणपणे शाश्वत विकास घडवून येत असताना मोठ्या प्रमाणावर अडथळे निर्माण झालेले आपल्याला दिसून येतात. यात वाढती लोकसंख्या हा सगळ्या गोष्टीसाठी जबाबदार असणारा एक महत्त्वाचा घटक मानला जातो. त्याचबरोबर जागतिक स्तरावर असणारे दारिद्र्य, ओझोन वायूचा प्रभाव, मोठ्या प्रमाणावर होणारे हवामान बदल, जागतिक तापमान बदल आणि या सर्वांचा परिणाम लोकांच्या आरोग्यावर झालेला आपल्याला दिसून येतो. मोठ्या प्रमाणावर लोकांना वेगवेगळ्या आजारांना तोंड द्यावे लागते. यासाठी आपल्याला प्रामुख्याने 3R या संकल्पनेचा उपयोग करावा लागेल. शिवाय लोकांमध्ये जनजागृती घडवून आणावी लागेल. कायद्याची अंमलबजावणी प्रखररित्या घडवून आणावी लागेल. त्या अनुषंगाने प्रामुख्याने शाश्वत विकासातील अडथळे दूर होण्यास मदत होईल. जगभर झालेल्या औद्योगिकीकरणामुळे शाश्वत विकासाचे महत्त्व अधोरेखित झालेले आहे. त्यांचा सर्व देशांच्या नियोजनात समावेश असावा या दृष्टीने आंतरराष्ट्रीय स्तरावर सुद्धा पावले उचलण्यास सुरुवात झालेली आपल्याला दिसून येते. आंतरराष्ट्रीय स्तरावर या बाबतीत सर्वात पहिला अहवाल क्लब ऑफ रोमने तयार केलेला दिसून येतो. या अनुषंगाने साधनसंपत्तीच्या अतिरिक्त वापरामुळे आपले जीवन कसे अंधकारमय होईल हे मांडण्यात आलेले आहे. या अनुषंगाने यावर मात करून प्रामुख्याने लोकांना चांगले जीवन कसे जगता येईल या दृष्टिकोनातून शाश्वत विकासाला हातभार लावण्याचं काम पर्यावरणीय अर्थशास्त्राकडून केले जाते. धन्यवाद.
The title of my paper is Titanic, a play between man and nature. A 1997 James Cameron directed film Titanic happened to be the epic creation of the century. Of course, it is widely popular as one of the greatest tragedies. The love story of Jack and Rose despite of the last conflict and the ultimate tragic sinking of RMS Titanic. Now, my point is to look at the story is different. During the day of Sunday, April 14, 1912, Captain Smith received a number of warnings of icebergs on his route which were largely ignored. At 11:40 p.m., the Titanic struck an iceberg on her starboard side, and at 2:20 a.m., the Titanic disappeared. My point here is, the Titanic is not the tragedy of Jack and Rose, but it is a battle between human ego and power of nature. Now, the confrontation between man and nature is multi-layered. Exhibition of the enormous strength from the both sides, that is from man and nature. Both want to survive from each other's wrath. In Titanic, what happens at the end? Jack, in bracket, of all trades, TRADES capitals, bracket close, dies, and Rose, in bracket, a flower, survives. That's speaks a lot in the pandemic of COVID-19. It is important for a man amidst the outbreak of COVID-19 to take some lesson. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, myself Ashwini Prakash Zawan. I am from Yashwantara Savan College of Arts, Commerce and Science, Koperkhane, Commerce Department. My topic is the role of gender equality in sustainable development. First of all, we see the introduction of sustainable development. Sustainable development is the need of great importance, and that's why the gender equality is not only a fundamental human rights, but it is the necessary of the foundation of peaceful, grateful and prosperous of sustainable development in the world. Then the meaning is sustainable development is the important that needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. And that's why the gender equality in sustainable development we can explain with the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. And Sustainable Development Goals is depending on the gender equality. This is the fifth target of gender equality in the sustainable development. One of the main sustainable development goals is set up in the United Nations 2030 agenda, and that's why the United Nations is explained with the seek of the achieve gender equality and empowerment of all women and girls. According to UN data, 90% of women between the 15 to 49 years old say they suffer from the physical violence, and that's why we can see the progress report in the gender equality in the related indicators years 2005 2006 to 2015 2016. There are four main points. The first is women's age 20 to 24 years marriage before 18 years. Second, women having a bank or saving accounts that they use in themselves. Third one is women whose body mass index is below normal, and last one is women who are illiterate or literate. We can see the difference in the 2005-6 and 2015-16. There are development in the all over 4 points. Last one is the Indian Economic Survey in 2019. Is noted that here had been a considerable improvement in all over areas in women's and girls. They had make decisions for multiple spheres, and in the additions the government explained or established some schemes for women. The first is Beti Bachao and Beti Padhao, and second is Sukanya Samruddhi Yojana scheme. Thank you.
Hello everybody, I'm Dr. S.B. Sisode. I'm an associate professor in botany at Loknethe Venkatrao Hire Mahavidyalaya Panchvati, Nasik. Today for this international conference, I'm going to present my research paper entitled The Role of Plants in Agriculture and Industries. As we know that our three basic needs of the plants, that is the food, clothing and shelter, that is fulfilled by the plants. At present, there are 391,000 plant species that exist in the world, and out of that, near about 16% of the plants that they are used in agriculture. As we know that the rice, wheat, then jawar, then some fruits and vegetables which are cultivated in the land as well as on the polyosol also. So for this agriculture sustainable development, the plants, they play an important role. As we know that the cyanobacteria, so the cyanobacteria, this is the term concerned with the plants, and what are the root nodules which are present in the leguminous plants that contain the bacteria, and these bacteria, they convert the atmospheric nitrogen into nitrate. There is a 78% of the nitrogen which is present in the atmosphere. This nitrogen is not present in the soil, so this nitrogen is beneficial to these plants. So generally these crops, they are taken as an intercropping system. In addition to this, there are some algae. These are the lower plants, particularly the BGA. This BGA, they also the capacity to develop into the plants. There are some lichens, and there are some methods that these nitrogen fixation, nutrient cycling, soil regeneration, pest management and irrigation, organic and biodynamic formation, nitrates, legume crops, forest plants. Plants used in the term crop rotation, soil nutrient, pest and weeds, polyculture, vertical farming crops. So this is the importance of the plants, that they play an important role. Now there are some plants, they play industry. For example, the amla, for example, the sugar cane. Then there are some plants that they produce the starch. So there are various plants, they are also used in the cosmetic industry, just like the aloe vera. Then okay, thank you.
Good evening. I am Assistant Professor Shalaga Prakash Sawan from Economics Department, Saket College of Arts, Science and Commerce. My research topic name is Study on Role of Women Empowerment in Sustainable Development. The main objective of my research paper is to understand women's contribution in sustainable development, because women are crucial contributors and implementers and beneficiaries of sustainable development. Keywords of my research paper are women empowerment, sustainable development, and economic and social development. Objective of my research paper first is to know about the essential of women contribution in sustainable development as partner and as beneficiaries. Second one is to study the role of women empowerment in sustainable development, and third one is to identify the factors influencing the economic empowerment of women and development. Research methodology. For this research paper, I used descriptive and quantitative methods. Primary data has been collected, which include close-ended questionnaire. Convenience sampling method was used with size of 52 respondents. Secondary data was collected in the form of articles published in the journals and research papers. Limitations of my study. First is time and COVID-19 pandemic situation are a major constraint in the study. Second one, area of research is also major constraint. Third one is this research paper is also reflect opinion and responses of individual only, whereby findings and suggestions given on the basis of this research paper, research cannot be applied to the entire population. In this paper, I included three main points. They are the concept of sustainable development, second one the concept of women empowerment, and third one is very important concept, role of women empowerment in sustainable development. According to my research, it was observed that sustainable development cannot be achieved without the full and equal participation of women. This research paper highlights some suggestions through the data analysis and questionnaire with sample size of 52 respondents. Women empowerment is a process. The decision in this paper is fully dependent on the relation between sustainable development and women empowerment. In this paper, researchers trying to elaborate the importance of women empowerment in sustainable development. To contribute in sustainable development, women need to be agent of change and hence building their skills and capacities in crucial. In fact, women at all level of activity and decision making need to be involved in full and equal participation, and efforts is therefore made in this paper to highlight examples referring to the economic and environmental dimension of sustainable development. Thank you so much.
Myself, Dr. R.J. Rasar, Head of the Department of Economics, Vice Principal of the College, Padma Shri V.K. Patil College of Arts, Science and Commerce, Pravaranagar, Taluka Rahata, District Ahmednagar. My paper title is Facts of Indian Economy. Summary of my paper is, the economy of India is characterized as a developing economy. It's the world's fifth largest economy by nominal and therefore the third largest by purchasing power of power parity. In keeping with IMF, on a per capita income basis, India ranked 139 by GDP in 2019. GDP by sector-wise in 2017, agriculture sector 15.2%, industry 23%, service sector 61.5%. The Indian economy is characterized as a developing economy. It is a world fifth largest economy by nominal GDP. In keeping with IMF, on a per capita income basis, India ranked 139 by GDP nominal and 180 by GDP in 2018. From 1947 until 1991, successive governments promoted protectionist economic policies with the extensive state intervention and regulations. Thank you.
Good morning everyone. Myself Dr. Rajendra Pawar,
Assistant Professor in Geography, Department of Geography, Padma Shri Vikhe Patil, College of Arts, Science and Commerce, Pravaranagar. My research paper title is Geographical Study of Economic Development of the Nashik District, Maharashtra, India. The coherence of entire communities is bound up in economic development, in education and in the creation of job opportunities for all those who can work, particularly young. In this era of a globalized economy and an information age where capital and labor are so mobile, no country can afford to undervalue or waste its human resources. Improving employment opportunities for young people requires a broad and concerned efforts from all stakeholders. While government are mainly responsible for creating an enabling environment for youth employment, employers as major providers of job and workers as direct beneficiaries have a significant part in the process. The study of occupational structure provides background for formulating future development plans. There are three types of work, that is workers, that is main worker, marginal worker and non-worker. I have studied all that things in this my paper. Thank you.
Hello, each and every delegates, good afternoon. Myself, Dr. Nasikit Govindrao Suryavanshi, Assistant Professor, Department of Economics, MJ College, Jalgaon. My paper name is Sustainable Development and Developing Countries. The concept of sustainable development form the basis of the United Nations Conference on the Environment and Development held in Rio de Janeiro in 1992. The summit marked the first international attempt to draw up action plans and strategies for moving towards a more sustainable pattern of development. In this research paper, some objective and importance of sustainable development. The first objective of sustainable development is that eradication of poverty across the world, promotion of good health of well-being, end hunger, achieve food security and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture, conserve and sustainability use the ocean, seas and marine resources. The main challenges of sustainable development: lack of financial resources to carry out and plan sustainable development. Sustainable development is often not possible in war-torn countries as there are other priorities on hand. Natural occurrences such as earthquakes and tsunamis can pose a threat to the sustainability as they can shift to the flow of water and destroy certain elements of infrastructure. The government conflict between immediate profit and investment towards sustainable technologies. Corruption, lack of efforts, a municipal level. Actually, the main challenges in front of sustainable development. And lastly, I give you some briefly conclusion in this research paper. India will continue to pursue the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals agenda through close collaboration between the national and subnational government as well as active participation of all other relevant stakeholders. Biannual reviews will be conducted with the state government for identifying good practice as well as challenges and undertaking the appropriate course correction. The Sustainable Development Goals implementation process has aiding valuable insight. Thank you.